Hello guys, today I'll be showing you my CD collection for the band Living Colour, and this is a band that I feel is kind of underrated. Now of course they did have their time of commercial success, especially with their debut Vivid and with the song Cult of Personality, which is their biggest song. And honestly, now I do think that's Cult of Personality is one of their best songs, but would I say it's their best song overall? I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd go that far. There are some songs in their discography that I do like more than that one. Open Letter probably being one of those songs for me. Probably a contender for being my favorite Living Colour song. I'm still unsure of what my favorite song is by the band, but Open Letter again is probably one of my personal favorites. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive into my CD collection. So of course it all started with the debut Vivid, and this is definitely one of their best albums. I mean, you really can't go wrong with most of the album. And of course, everyone knows Cult of Personality, but you have other great songs like I Want to Know and Open Letter and Desperate People, and of course, Glamour Boys. Many great songs on here, and this album is definitely a classic for sure, and overall a strong debut. Then we move on to their next album, Time's Up, and this album sees them expanding more with their sound, and it's also a longer album. And yeah, overall a pretty solid sophomore album. Some of my favorites being the title track, Love Rears Its Ugly Head, Pride, and Type. Those are probably my favorites. But yeah, overall pretty solid album, I'd say. I don't think I like it as much as Vivid, but again, still a solid album and definitely one of their best too. Then we have the Biscuits EP, and yeah, with this EP, you have some covers, and you also have a couple live tracks. But yeah, overall, pretty cool EP and definitely worth owning if you collect the CDs from this band. And then next we have Stain, and I like this album a lot. This album and Vivid fight for being my favorite Living Colour album. I love this album. I mean, with the album, of course, it's fairly different from their previous two albums. It's more heavy and also a bit darker too. And some of my favorites, well, honestly, those first 6 songs are pretty dang good. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of those first 6 songs. The album starts off really strong with that first half, but the second half is also pretty good too. I don't like the second half as much as the first half, but the second half again definitely has some pretty cool stuff like Nothingness. I do like this little pig, and I also really like the album closer, Wall, kind of an underrated song from them, I'd say. But Nothingness, definitely one of their best songs, and definitely a song that definitely deserves more attention overall. I really like that song, and again, I think it's definitely one of their best songs. But yeah, Stain, definitely a pretty dang good album, and I think it deserves as much attention as Vivid, personally. But next we have Pride, which is a compilation album. And then I have another compilation here called Play It Loud. Sold for a fairly cheap price, figured hey, why not? And then the band returns in 2003 with their album Kaleidoscope. And I have the dual disc version, and yeah, not one of their best, but still a solid album, I'd say, or overall an okay or decent album. Some of my favorites being Song Without Sin, which is probably the best known song from the album. You also have A Question of When, and also In Your Name, which is another favorite of mine off the album. Kind of different. You can tell they experimented with sounds a little bit more with that song. A little industrial, or it has some electronics in there, but again, I really like that song. But he has some other solid songs or decent tracks like Flying and Nightmare City and Great Expectation. I do think the album could have benefited from some trimming though. The album need to have 15 songs, in my opinion. Not really. I think the album again could have been better if you got rid of maybe like 2 or 3 songs off here. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of the production on this album. I mean, it doesn't ruin the album too much for me, but again, the production is definitely one of the weaker points of the album for me. But overall, decent album. Then we get to the Chair in the Doorway, which is probably my least favorite album by the band. Still a decent album, but again, my least favorite. Mainly because it's the album that I return to the least. It just doesn't have as strong replay value as their other albums for me, again, personally. But some of my favorites are The Chair, Decadence, and Hard Times. Bless Those is a song that I recently gave another listen to, which was a song that I haven't heard in a while, and I think that's a pretty good song. Probably one of the highlights on the album for me, too. Behind the Sun, if I remember correctly, was one of the singles, and I think that's a decent song. But yeah, the album definitely does have its moments, but it's definitely not one of my favorites from the band. And then we move on to their latest album, Shade, which I think is their best since probably Stain. Preachin' Blues probably being my favorite song on the album, but you also have other great songs like Freedom of Expression, Program. I also like their cover of Who Shot Ya, which was of course originally done by Notorious B.I.G. And yes, I have heard the original, and I do like Living Colour's cover of that song. But also you have other great songs like Pattern in Time, Glass Teeth, and Invisible is a pretty cool song too. Definitely one of my favorites from the second half. But yeah, overall, Shade, pretty solid album, I'd say. And if this is going to be their final album, this is not a bad album to end things off with, in my opinion. But hopefully sometime in the future they'll come out with another album. But anyways, that's my CD collection for Living Colour. Let me know your thoughts on my CD collection. Do you have any of these CDs? Are you a collector of the discography, whether it be CD or vinyl, etc., and all that good stuff? But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and a like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and take care.